first time it appeared in scientific literature was 1988, which means it's just as old as some of you. It's not a very long, it doesn't have a very long history. But then from, say, Lauja used it in 1980. 80s, 85, 86, people like Rawson, those people started using that term biodiversity. Now that it's a big thing. It started being referred to as biological diversity. Then it started, slowly people started abbreviating it as bio-diversity. Then it combined and it became biodiversity, like the term agroforestry developed. We initially used to write agro-diversity, then finally it's now one word in a similar way. It's a very recent origin. And what does it mean? I mean, being students of forestry, I don't have to tell you what biodiversity means. It means everything in life. Okay. And generally, we recognize biodiversity at three levels, called the alpha diversity, the beta diversity, and the gamma. We would call at the first level, the base level, as the alpha diversity. The second level, the level of different species, as the beta diversity, and the ecosystem as gamma diversity. I would skip the initial portions of it, which so that's straightforward. The second part is what is cultural diversity. Okay, the term cultural diversity, it also has an origin somewhere very close to biodiversity. When biodiversity started being used in 1985, 86, the first convention on cultural diversity happened in 1988 at a place called Belém. Belém is in Brazil. That was the first convention of ethnobiologists, and we have a Belém declaration that follows the convention that happened in 1988, called the Belém Convention. Later on, we have a sequel to that. We have Belém plus 30 convention, which happened in 2013, which again talks about cultural diversity. So these are two terms, two concepts that almost evolved simultaneously somewhere about the mid 80s. Okay, and culture, as UNESCO declares it, is it's a set of distinctive spiritual, material, intellectual, and emotional features of a society or a social group that encompasses, in addition to art and literature, lifestyles, ways of living together, value systems, traditions, and beliefs. That's how UNESCO defines it. And diversity in practices, maybe rituals, production system, knowledge transmission, ways of living together, value systems, knowledge, language, artistic expression, they all form into cultural diversity. At times, cultural diversity is segregated as linguistic diversity and ethnodiversity, signifying these are three separate terms. Like you have linguistic diversity, you have ethnic diversity, and you have cultural diversity. Just to take language and ethnic features out of the cultural diversity. But by and large, on a very long perspective, we always include both linguistic diversity and the ethnic diversity as part of cultural diversity. And now with this background, we take to the fourth level of biodiversity. We talked about species genetic diversity, species diversity, ecosystem diversity. Today, people talk about a next level, a delta diversity called biocultural diversity, wherein the biodiversity and cultural diversity merge together and you create unique systems where they independently, they don't mean much, but when they join together, they are quite unique and they create diversity. And my entire talk is about this of biocultural diversity. What are the threats that cultural diversity faces? What are the steps that we take to protect them? And where are we going from here? Okay. And before I start, I'll start off with a very small video. Okay, to understand, this is a BBC documentary. Pajau are a set of people who live over Indonesia, that coral triangle. So these are Bajau or fishermen who live off Philippines, Indonesia, all the way to Papua New Guinea, and there are a lot of marine national parks there. So these people, the uniqueness of these people are they have very large spleen. Okay, they are the best divers in the world. They dive without any equipment. They go as deep as 20 meters down the sea. They catch reef fishes and they survive out of that. Okay, it's basically about how they live. There was some sound and commentary. I think you are not able to hear that. He's actually going down the reef to catch fish. They actually catch the fish that way. They don't use hook or anything. They go with the harpoon down to the reef, catch very high value fishes. They come up and it's used for sushi, all those things in Japan and all very high value reef fishes. And they have evolved a particular anatomy. That's the depth you can dive actually. 5 meters is a maximum. Beyond that, if you go, your eardrums will burst. But they go up to 20 meters without any equipment. They just cover their eyes and dive down. And those are the houses they live. They live in water. On still they build the houses, they stay there. That's a mother taking a child to the reef, teaching them the skills of. Okay, I just wanted to show that. That's about Bajau people. A set of people who live off the sea. Sea is their playground. Every child grows in the sea. You can see. How do I move to the next slide? Yeah, that's a Bajau child playing with his pet shark. Okay, he is moving around with his pet shark in the water. That's his playground. Okay, they grow there. They have anatomically evolved. They have a larger spleen that enables them to dive very deep. And every Bajau childbirth, it is believed that they are born twins. Every Bajao child is born as a twin. The twin, first baby is the baby itself. The second is supposed to be the placenta. The placenta of the baby is actually returned back to the sea. So every mother, when they deliver, the Bajao their belief is that he is born a twin. The twin being the placenta, and the placenta is immediately returned to the sea. And the belief is that throughout their life, the sibling of this particular person will protect the person in the sea. And it's believed that the placenta will grow and become an octopus. And the octopus is the guardian angel for every Bajava person in the. And with such strong beliefs, no, they would not harm the sea. Okay, that's the kind of belief that every Bajava person has. It's not very unique to that's a Bajava person moving around with an octopus. Okay, they actually harvest octopus also. They catch, this person has actually caught octopus, he is bringing it ashore. So these are what we call as biocultural features of societies. Okay, I very particularly took about something with water because water is something that you cannot really relate to. But when I say that every community living in our forest has such strong bonds with the forest, you may not really appreciate it. But when we say that such interactions have evolved, they have anatomically changed, and they have such strong beliefs, and such beliefs are getting destroyed. You know, the problem with all the marine parks in Indonesia today is that the fishing happens with the use of potassium cyanide. They use fertilizer bombs, you know, the fertilizer that you get around, you can make bomb out of it. They know how to make it. They use that. They poison with for catching coral fishes, they poison the reefs. So a lot of things are happening. And this has actually taken the livelihood options of Bajau people, and they don't know anything else. Like they live off the sea, their house is in the water. They never live in the land. And that the people, Bajau people, are. You should read more about Bajau and their culture and all when you get time. How their life is getting affected, and we have such situations. You know, before we actually modern civilization, modern way of living started, we were something like this. Our biological, cultural, and language, everything was merged into one big cesspool, and we were living off like that. Slowly, started separating. We The biological diversity, the cultural diversity, the language diversity started separating. And in later stage, in phase two, you find that there is a loss of cultural and linguistic diversity at certain phases. There is a loss of biological diversity at certain phases. They are slowly separating out, and we are somewhere there. Biodiversity has actually moved away from cultural and linguistic diversity, which even now tends to mean it tries to be together. Cultural and linguistic diversity, biodiversity has slowly started moving away from that, and this is the stage that we are. And you know, but when you look at biodiversity, this is something that cannot have an independent existence from away from cultural diversity. You know, we were doing a study on Chola Naikans in Nilambur area. That's a primitive tribe in Kerala. So we were trying to understand the number of plants. We were doing an ethnobotanical studies and identifying what all plants they depend for food. And we found that we segregated the information into ages, and we found that people above 50, they recognize a large number of plants as edible, while people below 30 actually have no such knowledge that these plants are edible. They don't know when it is available. They don't actually depend, because most of the people actually go to the public distribution system. They go to the ration shop, buy the rice, they get dal or something from the shop. They no longer depend on it. Once your dependency goes, actually you don't really need it also. Say for example, when with the advent of modern medicine, I think we no longer cultivate any of these medicinal plants in our garden. We don't need it. When you can buy henna from your shop, you don't need a henna plant in your house. That's actually a big botheration. When you keep a henna plant, it's a whole the botheration to have, grind it. When you get tubes in your shop. So slowly these kinds of information are losing. And a lot of aspects of cultural heritage, like we have a tangible heritage which forms part of culture: buildings, monuments, landscapes, books, works of art, artifacts, that all derive again directly or indirectly from your biodiversity. Then intangible, you have folklore, traditions, language, knowledge. The natural heritages, like culturally significant landscapes, biodiversity. I mean, they all join together and make your cultural heritage. And if you really look into biodiversity and cultural heritage, you find that many of the world's core areas of biodiversity are also important culturally, like India, Indonesia, America, China, Mexico, Malaysia. Very few very culturally rich areas which lack biodiversity. Say, for example, Peru, Madagascar, South Africa. Some countries that have very rich biodiversity, but cultural diversity is not as diverse as biodiversity. But most of the countries, if you take, they are rich culturally and biodiversity. And there seems to be some interaction between these two. So is it language. When you have a large number of language diversity in language, you find that the biodiversity is also very high. Because, for example, when you have a large number of plants, you need a name, you need to name those plants. So your language also develops, because every plant has to be given a name. So that, say for example, if you go to Arabian desert, we have very few names for the stars. We can identify a constellation like say Ashwadeep. I don't know what you say in Tamil, but very few stars we can name. But if you go to a place like Arabia, where they navigate at night, they use the night for a variety of things to know the direction. Because at night you need to find which direction you are moving. So they depend a lot on stars. You'll find that their vocabulary, every star has a name. Okay. Unlike our system, where few stars have a name, we identify stars for the purpose of maybe calculating the time or identifying a day. But for them, it's much more relevant. So they have name for most of the stars. Now, similar, when you have a large number of plants and animals around you, your language also develops, because you need to identify them, name them, call them a name. So it also develops. So you find that biodiversity and language, biodiversity and culture, they all follow. I was talking about the declaration of Belém that happened in 1980. Okay, wherein the concept of biocultural diversity, linking diversity with this was the first ethnobiology conference, and wherein the concept of indigenous people and their knowledge systems, their rights and their livelihood became very important. And Declaration of Belém says that humankind's accumulated reserve of learned response to the environment that make coexistence between man and nature and self-recognition possible. This is the theme of the Belém Declaration. And there are several ways in which they interdependence on biodiversity and cultural diversity. One is on material culture. Okay, a large number of objects created and representing biodiversity. Spiritual, religious beliefs, aspiration, art forms. Many art forms evolve from the diversity around you. Many ways of building your house actually comes. Say, for example, you have a lot of leaf of a particular type. You use it to thatch your house. Okay. In Kerala, I'll tell you, we used to use the rice straw for thatching the house. And which rice straw we use? We use the second crop season's rice straw, because second crop season we normally grow photosensitive varieties, and photosensitive varieties have longer straw, and that straw is used actually to thatch the house. So second, even now the second crop season, which is photosensitive, we grow varieties that have got longer straw, because Immediately after that, you're going for a dry season where you need straw to feed your cattle. You need straw to go thatch your house. So we use that. Based on your climate, for example, if you come to Kerala, people normally eat what is called as parboiled rice. And if you have ever taken that, people don't come to Kerala Agriculture University thinking about eating parboiled rice because it's a bit tough to eat. You know, we use parboiled rice because of the high humidity. When you have very high humidity, your rice goes bad. It becomes it goes bad because the starch easily gets damaged. So what we do is we actually boil the rice, and once you boil the rice and cool it down, it becomes parboiled rice. Then your keeping quality goes up. Now you really don't need to do that now because you are not actually cultivating rice in one season and using it for the rest of the year. You're actually getting rice as and when it is required. But we continue that tradition. We continue the tradition of going in for photosensitive varieties, despite the fact that we are long back given up using thatched roof in your houses. But the culture remains. Such in similar way, a large number of materialistic things. It's carried forward. It's carried forward through your interactions. Then knowledge and technology, techniques, traditional and local knowledge. We are now giving, for example, KFR recently got they got GI status for a handicraft called Kannadi Paya. It's made in Palakkad. Okay, using using the again, they were using products from nature and making this Kannadi pie, which got recently GSA. So there are a large number of traditional knowledge, their transmission systems, mechanisms of revitalization. How do they maintain this tradition? They all form part of then modes of subsistence. If you all forestry students, if you go to, you should at least one day try to go to the forest without any food. Take one old tribal person with you, walk around with him and eat whatever he digs up. It's so interesting. I've done that several times. You will find that there are a large number of Dioscorias down in the forest, which they will dig up for you. Large number of leaves that they will ask you to eat, which is quite palatable. Large number of fruits that they will collect and give you. The moment they see there is a banana in your pocket or bread in your bag, no, they will not go for that. But I think you should go. How they live off that. But that skill is not available with the young persons. If you take a very young boy who is about 25, 30 and walk with him to the forest, he will ask you to give him food. He doesn't know how to survive off the forest. But then if you go with very old, wise people, they will, and it will be a revelation for you. What are things that is available? What all knowledge they possess? Now that's something slowly evading. That's getting lost. Economic relations. How do you manage the common property? See, if you go to, I'm talking mostly about Kerala because that's where I work. Okay, you have similar stories in Tamil Nadu also. See, if you go to Munnar area, Munnar area, there's a place called Edamalakudi. It's quite close to Tamil Nadu actually, and we have a group of tribes called Muduvas. Probably Tamil Nadu also has Muduvas. They are actually carry their child at the back. They have a small bag in which they put the child. That's why they are called, and they're related to the Kannagi stories of Tamil Nadu. They came from here. Uh, you know, there they have a common. Or they are basically farmers. They don't do any farming. What they do is they have areas where cardamom gets collected, wild cardamom. Okay. It's a common property. Like it's a large area where the entire colony goes and collects the cardamom from there, and it's a common property. It used to be a common property. So one colony has a common property, and they live off that. Very complex systems. Now it's failing. You go to Wayanad, you have a tribe set of tribes called Kurchias. Kurchias, you will find a Tarawad there, and in one Tarawad, they are again farmers. You'll find that there are hundreds of cattle. owned by the entire family, a group of people. The family would be 20 to 30, and they would collectively own about 200 to 300 cattle, which they graze in the area, and they collect and they share it. Very complex tenurial systems, very complex economics, very complex management. And I mean, of course, these are all failing. So, such relationship, rites and rituals. What you see here is what is called as a KD. KD is a peculiar system in Wayanad area. If you go to Wayanad area, it's actually a tree trunk, okay, dug and deposited into the ground, and you get water in that. Okay, and it's a perennial also. It's a small, maybe about 3 to 4 feet deep. Okay, they would have buried a tree trunk. The hollow, it is hollowed out, and water comes into that. It's like a small well. This is a KD is considered to be highly pious. Nobody approaches a KD without removing the shoes and all. You have to be very pure approaching, and that's the water they use for cooking. Okay, it's not for a religious purpose. It's for cooking and very sweet water. High up in the mountains, you will find such KDs. Okay, these things should be there in around here also, like snake worshipping of snakes, worshipping of places. I was talking about language diversity. This is a graph showing about biodiversity, high correlation of biodiversity and language diversity. See, a place like the highest language diversity in the world is in Papua New Guinea. We have more than 1,000 languages in that small island. If you go to Nagaland, Nagaland has got 90 languages, more than 90 languages. Okay, very high diversity spots, a large number of languages, small people. It's not that many people speak these languages, but then there is a diversity of languages, and languages are, of course, and you'll find that this is just to show you the relationship between hotspots of biodiversity and hotspots of language diversity. You know, there's an interesting paper on co-occurrence of linguistic and biological diversity in biodiversity hotspots and high biodiversity wilderness areas. There were more than 10,000 languages in the world, of which about 6,000 surveys, close to 6,000 surveys, and somewhere about 3,000 of it, half of it, actually is in these biodiversity hotspots. Okay. And when the language disappears, your ability to identify a particular thing disappears, your use of that particular thing disappears, and you will no longer care for that. So that's how it disappears. And I'll just give you one small example of how language goes. This I found in, we have a Herman, there was a Gundert in Kerala who wrote the first Malayalam dictionary. He is a German priest. He came to Kerala, he studied the language. He was the person who wrote the first Malayalam dictionary. And his dictionary, we have 3 letters, which is no longer used in Malayalam language. Yeah. No one knows where this letter went and you can't find a word that uses these letters. Probably, if you look into classical Tamil, no, you will find that large number of letters have disappeared because we no longer use it. Languages have always evolved like that, you know. Initially, when man started, no, he used to draw pictures to communicate. Then slowly, many languages, no, I mean, like Chinese, Japanese, and all, it's stuck there. They still use dialects which is almost like pictures. We in Kerala has somewhere about, Malayalam has about 57 letters, Tamil has less. English much more evolved. We have only 27. It's still evolving. And I mean, the time you spend your smiley and all in your WhatsApp, no, you are helping the language to evolve. Instead of writing a whole sentence, you send out a smiley and say that I'm happy. Okay. You do that, no? I mean, most of the times you send out a smiley or you send out something. Again, you're helping the language to evolve. It becomes less and less complicated to understand. In a similar way, this is something that I found. And there are threats which are quite similar that the cultural and biodiversity faces today. I hope you recognize this particular plant. This is Senna spectabilis. Have you heard of Senna spectabilis? Yeah. It's creating havoc in the all along the Wayanad and Plateau. We have more than 50 square kilometers of Wayanad and Plateau affected by. You should see those areas. Nothing goes under that. Okay. And prime forests are being taken over. So is what is happening in all our places. You have television, you have all modern, ultra modern communication technologies that's making an inroad in your culture. Your culture is getting affected. We always think that if everything is uniform, it's easier to manage. But then, a monoculture is not a forest. A tea plantation managed at its best cannot be called a forest. It's easy to manage, of course. It's a lot difficult to do your selection felling compared to clear felling. Clear felling is quite easy. You just cut it down, manage it. But do a proper selection felling, maintain the integrity, structure, function of the forest is a big thing. Okay. So is the case with culture also. If everybody is uniform, everyone speaks the same language throughout India, everyone has the same culture, it's a lot easier to manage. But then it will no longer be India. You have that problem. So to maintain a culture is a very big challenge in front of us. I'll give you a small few examples of how biodiversity, biocultural diversity is maintained in agriculture. Now, the word I put culture in red with a very specific purpose. We always used to agree is culture. There is a culture built in agriculture. And in the 60s, if someone was asked, why do you do farming? There is only one answer. I do farming for eating. No? But 70s, we have crops like rubber. Nobody eats rubber. So if you say that I do farming for eating, you are wrong. You don't eat rubber. So why do you do farming at that point of time? It's not only for eating, it's not only as food, but it as raw material for industry. You do farming. Now we have moved from that, and Dr. Parthiban talks about agri-business now. It's business. It's no longer culture. Agriculture has actually moved. Now you have incubator, agroforestry incubator, agripreneurship. We talk about agripreneurship now. So it moved from agriculture to agripreneurship. So we have slowly evolved. But I'll talk about a few cases of very interesting agriculture. Again, cases from Kerala, sorry. This is a particular system of farming called Pokali. Have you heard of Pokali? Anyone? Okay. You're from Kerala? No, okay. Pokali, what you see at the background here is actually mangroves. Okay. So the farming is actually happening in the mangroves. It's actually threatening the mangroves. What they do is during the summer, it's mangroves, saline water comes in, there is a lot of salinity. Okay. Along with the saline water, lot of fish ponds coming, lot of prawns coming, they all occupy this particular area. You cannot do any farming there because these are all what they do is paddy cultivation, and paddy is highly saline sensitive, so they cannot do farming there. What they do is they do something like this. They create small mounds here. Okay. And during that season, what they harvest from that area is actually fish. They catch the fish, they sell the fish, they live off that. With the rains, what happens is the rains, these mounds are created in such a way that they will not get submerged in the rains. There will be enough space outside over the water when the rains are in full. With the rains, the top of these mounds, no, all the salt will dissolve and go down. The top portion of these mounds are actually salt free. Okay. Here, during the rains, they sow their seed. And these rice varieties are not very, if you study saline tolerance, physiology of it, all the halophytes, no, they are as susceptible to the presence of physiological metabolism. You'll find that the halophytes are as susceptible to salt as a glycophytes. So we don't have physiologically, like if you have high temperature, plants that grow in high temperature, you will find the enzymes are tolerant. You would have heard about thermos aquaticus. There are enzymes that are heat tolerant, but you will find very few enzymes that are actually tolerant to salt. So is the case with most of the crops. Salt tolerant breeding is a very difficult task. You'll find that see all the salt tolerant lines of wheat. You'll find that they have all evolved from Karnal area. Accessions from Karnal. All these salt tolerant rice varieties have actually come from Pokali area throughout the world. The contributor is Pokali rice, and here during that period, with the rains, when the salts are gone, you will find the mounds like this. On the top of these mounds, you have the rice germinated. Okay. Now, at peak of rain, they will drain the entire water. All the salt will go. They will come with. They have a very peculiar pickaxe like a thing, and they will be spreading these mounds throughout that field. And that area, the rice will now develop. The second crop, what they harvest is actually rice. And this is called Pokali rice. It's organic rice. It's high value rice. So people and this is there in Ernakulam, near Ernakulam Cochin area. This is called Pokali. If you come to North Kerala, this is called Kaipad rice. And this is biologically very rich area because during this season, all the migratory birds would come here, and it's a important bird area. There are constant issues because the people are walking into the mangroves actually. Okay, these are mangrove areas where people cultivate. See how beautifully culture and biodiversity coexist. Take this is another similar case. This is called coal. Okay, this is in and around Trichu. And we have the floodplains of all these rivers. So the floodplains are there. During the rains, every field will be flooded. You cannot, they will look like lakes. And coal is actually a Ramsar site. Vembanad coal is one of the Ramsar sites in Kerala. And this is the area. These are floodplains of these rivers where during the rainy season you cannot cultivate. It's all flooded. But with the rains receding, the water would slowly move back to the river. Now, what happens during this time is the river would have got a lot of very rich alluvial soil from the hillocks, and it is deposited there. The farmers there gets only one opportunity to farm. That is a second crop season. First crop season they cannot do anything because of the water. Second crop season they cultivate, but that cultivation, they get the yield which is equivalent to 2 yields of the normal farmer. This is called coal. Coal in Malayalam is bumper. Okay, this field is called coal field because the yield that they get is they don't need to cultivate twice. They just need one crop, and that one crop gives the yield of 2 crops. Okay, again, how beautifully people evolve. And closer home, what we study, agroforestry, homesteads in Kerala. Another beautiful system. I often have fights with my arguments with my friends. I say this is no longer agroforestry system. You can't call them agroforestry system because see, agroforestry systems are production systems. Your primary focus is on producing. But if you walk into any homestead in Kerala, you will not find anybody fertilizing it. Despite the fact that planting a banana under a coconut tree will not give any yield to the banana, people go plant the banana basically because he's not looking for a banana fruit. He is looking for banana leaf to cut so that whenever there is a sadhya going around, he needs some banana leaves. Okay. And you look into the components there, none of the products from a homestead will actually go to the market. Today, the modern economics theory talks about market superiority. You invest your money in something so that it gives you profit. Okay. No homestead will actually give you profit. So they are more like a sustenance system than production system. So we have been trying to improve a homestead. Now, what to improve in a homestead? You say that I will introduce a new variety. They don't want it. You say that I'll come out with a new package of practice for managing homestead. No, who cares? Who decides what components are there in a homestead? The components are decided mostly by the female of the house, and the female of the house is not the main identified farmer of the house. Okay. She would, that lady would put a henna there because there is a small girl there. She would put a few medicinal plants there because there is maybe, I mean, it's highly dynamic and very contextual with the family. One family look at the components of homestead, you go to the next family, it's totally different. Okay. So it beats, it doesn't actually follow any pattern that you normally assign to a production system. So, classic case of another biocultural diversity. Each, I normally call it as an analog forest. It's not a forest. I hope you know the term analog forest. These are kind of analog forests. So, a few cases more biocultural diversity arising from agriculture. And we could actually pick a larger number of such cases. I just picked at random three cases. What are we doing to conserve it? One, there is a UNESCO SCBD program linking biological and cultural diversity. This has been on a large number of activities happen at the edges of this particular thing. My time is running out. So I would pick up a few international instruments. You have CBD, WHC, Universal Declaration of Cultural Diversity is BELAM, Conventional Protection Promotion Diversity of Cultural Expression. Large number of international treaties are there. You must be quite well knowing about heritage sites, World Heritage Sites, which is another step towards protecting biocultural diversity. And there are three kinds of World Heritage Sites. One is clearly defined landscapes, which are uh, created by humans. These are landscapes that are of human origin, who have imprints of human choices and selection in it. There are a large number of World Heritage Sites which fall into this particular criteria called clearly defined landscapes defined by humans. Then you have organically evolved landscapes and associated landscape, which is by virtue of artistic cultural associations. And you must be knowing we have about 42 of them in India. Uh, there are 39 serial sites in Western Ghats, 19 falls in Kerala, 6 of them are in Tamil Nadu. In agriculture, if you take, we have what is called as globally important agriculture heritage systems. Unfortunately, what happens is we have about 67 systems spread around 22 countries. There are only 2 systems that are represented from India. But unfortunately, nobody has taken an effort. Actually, there are a large number of systems in Tamil Nadu that could actually be classified into this. That's the 2 systems. One is in Kerala, it's called the Kutanad below level sea farming system of India. And second is the Koraput traditional agriculture in India. Just 2 systems. We are not making any effort into this. Actually, we should be putting, for example, straight away I can say homestead farming in Kerala can actually go into this. Below sea level. Kutanad, we have got a barge which is created, and it's a below sea level system. And the next is, this is also not created, not added to agriculture university. Agriculture university is the least bothered into this. I think it's time that we while I was there in biodiversity board, I've been asking several people, identify unique systems. Let's conserve them because it needs more attention. They are as important as your national parks. They are as important as most of the highly conserved systems that we locally. What do we do? These are global systems. Locally, we have what is called as people biodiversity. I don't know how many of you are aware of this. People's biodiversity registers. I think every Grama Panchayat is supposed to have a PBR. And there is a lot that agriculture university can do in this era. So, see, in Kerala, what has happened is we finished all our panchayats have biodiversity registers. 2008, the last Panchayat was, they had the register. We are now going with the second revision of the biodiversity register, starting from last year when I was there in the biodiversity board. Because many of, say for example, invasive species was not a threat in 1997 when we started PBR. Now it is one of the biggest threats we have. So your biodiversity has changed, the threats have changed, the opportunities have changed. So we have moved to the next. But most of the states in India, the first level of biodiversity issues we are not completed. The problem is that every panchayat has got what is called as the BMC, biodiversity management committees. Now they don't know what to do about it. They have absolutely no clue about what is the BMC. Many people do not know that they are member of BMC. They don't know what is the PBR. And PBR is a place where you actually, document all these things. There is it contains local festivals, mythology, folklore, sacred dues. There's a very large portion of PBR which defines the cultural diversity in that particular area. I think I'll skip all this because my time is up. Folk arts. Then there is something called biodiversity heritage sites. As per the Biodiversity Act, we could actually declare certain areas as biodiversity heritage site. This is a biodiversity heritage site declaration at one particular. We have only one biodiversity heritage site. Again, we also have been very slow. But you could such heritage site like UNESCO's, we can also describe it, define biodiversity heritage site, which is declared by the government. They get a lot of grant for conserving it. Traditional knowledge can be recorded in the PBR. Traditional knowledge holders can be recorded. This is the except I just took it from the Thrissur PBR. It's actually becoming online. Every PBR is getting online. I think ethnic diversity you can define in PBR. Yeah, I'll stop with that. So, anything you want to ask?